Good morning. Welcome back to Expert Insights. I'm your host Ranju Manthi, and we are on the second portion of this show, and we are talking about the transformative power of technology. After we have spoken about the transformative power of art with Professor Van James, we have Professor Arup Maiti, who sometimes teaches at the AIM, but most of the time he shoots pictures and does a lot of software application creation. Professor Arup Maiti, welcome to Expert Insights.
Thank you, Raju. Love to come here. This is my second visit.
This is your second visit, of course. You were here a year and a half ago, and we spoke about education that time.
Right.
So today we are here to talk about the transformative power of technology. And Professor Van James here was telling us that lines and circles is all what life is all about. What's your take on that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, how can that be wrong, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, as he aptly defined it, that the binaries are all lines and curves, and yeah, I mean, everything is made from there. In fact, once you go further down, the molecules and particles and everything, and actually it vanishes into nothing also.
That's another field we're going into. Okay. So technology today,
Right.
based on the fact that it's all lines and circles, dots and dashes. No more dots and dashes, but lines
Yeah.
and circles. Not today. So where are we in terms of achieving freedom or achieving higher performance using technology? How are we today?
So I guess I have to start by saying that there are more than one kind of work output. Some output are more physical in nature. A factory produces goods which are physical, but there are other outputs which are mostly digital in nature. So when you're talking about professional services, you're talking about creative services, most of the output are something that can be digitized, and once you have something that can be converted into zeros and ones, it can move from anywhere. It can move from, okay, it can move from, let's say, professor sitting in Hawaii and someone observing and appreciating it in New York or in Philippines at the real time. So that changes how things can be, how you can do output your work from anywhere and can be used by anyone or appreciated by anyone in another corner of the earth.
So art, music, media, advertising,
Professional service, design.
training, teaching, anything can
Yes.
be converted into 0, 1. It's being converted right now.
And as you might have read the book from Thomas Friedman about the world is flat, it connects a lot of other factors, internet, technology, global economy, everything makes it possible that such digital output could be consumed, could be catered to anyone across the world. So this is where the technology connects the different dots and makes it possible to change how people used to work.
Or still working today, no?
Right.
So how has the work life changed today, given the fact that we have acquired so much liberty, so much power, in fact, so much leverage on how we used to do things and we do them now?
Yeah, well, it's like I think we had a long discussion about it with a friend some time ago. The question was, do people like to work at all? I mean, it's a interesting question because I mean, we all generally wait eagerly for the weekend. So does it mean if every other day was weekend, we would be happier, or is it that we do also look forward to going back to work on Monday or another day? And our long story short, the conclusion of the discussion was yes. I mean, as long you have found what you like to do, you do actually miss work. If you have a very long vacation, you start missing work.
That's a great insight. You know, I mean, I've never thought about whether I like to work or I don't like to work. I just realized that I work.
Right.
And of course, sometimes I derive pleasure out of it, no?
So if you don't like to work, maybe you have chosen the wrong work.
Okay, okay,
But
okay.
if you like to work, that's natural.
Mhm.
But then what is it that people don't like about it? What is it that, why do they wait for vacations? Why do they wait for weekends? That's because there are other things in life they want to do.
Mm.
And if work comes in between what they like to do, they need to do, then they start disliking work, or they want to wait for the weekend and the holidays.
So you're saying that when people do work that just requires them to, I mean, need to survive basis, then when they work, they don't like it. But when it's work that's creating some kind of output or letting them use all their
Intellectual
potentials, yeah.
potentials, they feel they're growing with it,
Mhm.
they enjoy it, uh, they want to work, and there is no need for work-life balance. You just find the right work and your life can be balanced.
So from your point of view, you being a professor and an IT specialist, how does one go about, I mean, one part that you choose the right kind of work, that's one story. But how do you go about using technology to free yourself from the drudgery of wanting to survive or needing to survive?
So going back to the point that you start disliking the work once it comes in the way of things you need to do, things you want to do.
Yeah.
So that's where the technology can come in freeing you up from the typical constraints
Yeah.
which work used to put, like you have to go 9 to 5.
Right. Okay.
You have to sit in your desk.
Right.
Uh, those are the constraints which probably takes time off from spending from your
Yeah, those
kid
get in
probably,
the way, right?
or if you want to go and sit by a beautiful beachside and,
Mhm.
and sip on your cocktail, that's the dream you wait for, but then why should it stop you from working? And that's where technology can come and make you still productive, still do what you do best, sitting in a beautiful location.
Professor Van James, who was just here before you, and he
Exactly.
lives across the world. He's done 8 books, and all he does is teach art and stuff. So how does a person like him now use technology to, of course, he's really living a very balanced life. He told me about it. How does he go about making the most out of technology today?
Someone like him or several others are actually already doing it
Mhm.
in some or other format. I mean, of course, there is preference and there is form of delivery and the market, and there's several factors to it. But there are enablers. Like for example, if someone is working for someone and wants to receive payment for the work, something like PayPal can enable it immediately, and it doesn't have to be a big amount. You don't need to go to a bank. You can just type a few things on the internet, and you can make a small or large payment happen any part of the world. That's one factor, payment, which is the key of work life.
Oh, that's your
Right.
returns on your sweat, no?
The other part is the output can be, so the second is how do someone who needs an art or a work from somewhere find someone, because I mean it used to be that you have this
Yeah.
office and people
Sourcing,
walk in, right?
networking, working with groups and
So
stuff.
there are several digital marketplace where you can source talent in very specific areas of what they do. Now, how does it benefit? There are several benefit of that. One is that, well,
We're still talking about the professor as an example, who's
yeah,
an artist, a professor, a trainer,
he's
yeah.
an artist, he's a professor, and I mean, you
Yeah.
know, he can possibly still help
Yeah.
people deliver maybe part of what he's teaching across on a digital way. Now, how do someone find him, let's say from deep down in Africa, and want to conduct a program? So one is how can they find him?
Mm-hmm.
Second is how can he deliver it?
Yeah.
And third is if he's doing it as a profession, how can he get paid for it?
3 things. Okay. Number one, how does he get found? How does he deliver his services, the value that he provides, and then how does he get returns on it? Three. Four.
And there's a fourth one, which is basically tying all of this thing down together and being able to repeat it and run it like a business.
Now, give me tips, Professor.
So, of course, there are
Give
several.
me tips with the professor in mind, or maybe me in mind as a TV host.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the most popular in Philippines is called Odesk. Odesk is, it has its own economy. You can actually go there and find which profession is growing and how much transaction is being done on that. There are housewives sitting in deep corner of Cagayan and doing wonderful manual writing for some company in New York and stuff like that, and getting paid in US dollar while taking care of their home responsibilities. Now, this was unheard of and unthought of before, and what makes it happen is this marketplace. So, for example, going back to your skill or professor's skill, if someone needs some very specific type of module developed, which maybe they can possibly try to deliver, but someone who has already done it several times and guide on it or consult on it, they can go and search online in the marketplace and find someone like that. There are other tools.
How does he deliver it?
Right.
His skill and his talent lies in sketching and coloring and paint and colors and showing people how to do. So how does he use technology today? And he's taking 60 people to Pampanga tomorrow. How does he do that?
Some things still needs human presence. So there's no denying of it, but some part of it probably can still be done remotely. So probably the overall concept of it, probably there are other practitioners in some part of the world who can probably do the human part of the interaction, and he can help in designing and share his knowledge of what works and what doesn't. And that can be utilized by the person on the other end in delivering it physically to the kids or to the participants. So let's not think that by transforming, we're talking about going totally digital and no human interaction. That would be terrible, I guess.
Yeah, where would I get my sandwich from? I can't download a sandwich or a pizza.
So we are not talking of that world, okay. We are talking about freedom. We are not talking about isolation. We are talking about the freedom to sit with Raju when I want to without being stopped by my work and other things. But we are not talking about not meeting Raju ever and just calling up on the phone or another technology. Now, going back to the original question of how it can be delivered after it's found, there are different medias and there are technologies, so some of it is still evolving and some of it is already quite popular. And that's another field in itself, and it's evolving. The third part of it is basically how do you get paid for it. So I was just mentioning that.
Paid, I think it's easy portion of it.
It's easy part. Now, all of these components are more or less there in the market. But someone like you, who is quite successful and you're doing what you love to do. It's a Saturday and you're enjoying doing what you're doing. So that means, it's something you want to do.
It's a Friday morning, Professor.
Okay, it's a Friday morning then.
Right.
So, whatever you want to do, if you like to do, you do, and you want to do more of it. But then you might not want to get tied down by it. For example, with me, I picked up going less of corporate work and more of starting my own and teaching and doing other things because I wanted the freedom. I wanted how I can move around. Well, slowly we started with 4 people, and after a while we were more than 100. And somehow, keeping track of everything ties me down from the same freedom that I wanted in the first place.
You kind of lost me there. Freedom ties you down. How does that happen?
No, you started with trying to find the freedom, but as you keep growing,
you became more and more.
It ties you back down.
Right.
And once you go about trying to figure what is it that's holding you back, because there's no one really telling me that you have to report at 9 a.m. or something. If I don't show up, I mean, I don't get a salary deduction, I guess. But the point is, why do I need to go there? Because I need to keep it running. Now, do I need to be there physically to keep it running? And that's where we started figuring that, okay, it's not only those three components, but there's another layer, which is how do you manage it all? How do you keep it together? So I mean, in business there are three key aspects. One is how do you get a work? How do you find it?
How do you find
right?
work? Yeah.
Generally, you get a lead and someone talks about it and you convert it to a business, and then it's a contract and etc. So that's a whole process. Then
That's the
who
first
will
step.
do it? Who will do it? I mean, in the beginning maybe you're the expert and you do it, but as you start growing, you have people. Some of them are full-time professionals, some of them are consultants,
Contractual, yeah.
and you're paying for them. And how do you make sure they have the right skill that the market is looking for? How do you make sure that they're not just sitting and getting bored? I mean, even if you're wasting money, it's also waste of human potential if they are not doing anything, right? So how do you make sure you keep them occupied in a gainful way, and which is intellectually fulfilling for them? And the third part of it is like, while doing this work, while creating this output for your clients wherever they are, how do you make sure?
Churning the machinery of life.
Yeah, how do you keep it all connected?
Yeah,
how do you make sure? And especially, I mean, when you're sitting with two person in front of them and they're working on something, you see them and you kind of feel like, okay, yeah, something is happening. But if you're across the world or another room, the anxiety level goes up.
Right.
You think like, are they really working, or are they like goofing off somewhere, or if not, even if you trust them, you think maybe they're going wrong about it.
So what are you getting at, Professor? What are you doing about it, or what can we do
So
about it?
this were the challenges we kind of analyzed, and we said, okay, there's a
We
need.
meaning
We
people at
means me in our company, and
Right.
talking to several other practitioners in the industry, and we said we need to come up with something. And we started an approach. We put together this platform called Zamun.
This is by Blastasia, your
That's
company.
right.
Okay.
This is something we have been working for last 3 years, and this is supposed to bring back that freedom of working where your heart is. You don't need to be tied down.
So that's working from anywhere, anytime, with the people you want, and sometimes making physical contact depending on the need.
It can be one extreme of just being at home, some corner, and all your colleagues and participants are across the world, and your
And no
clients.
matter what profession or discipline you're into.
Within certain constraints, of course. I mean, if it requires some physical output and all, it might be difficult, but generally,
Bread
whatever can
making
be.
is out. Bread making and bakery is
Right,
out.
anything that
You
can have a
mentioned
digital
yeah.
output.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean it's only for those who do not have an office and want to be remotely working. It could be for even any of your office where you have people, you have staff, and it just gives you the freedom to choose. If you want to work from home or Boracay, you can still do it and not lose control.
Or from Hawaii.
Or from Hawaii. Yes.
Yeah. Prof, so where is the world getting to in the coming years? No? Work life, people in the digital media, people in the art form, etc. Not people who are making bread. No? 10, 20 years down the line, how do you see the world shaping up, transforming? And what part does Philippines play? Because here we are really talking about adding value to this country. So what do you see? What's in your mind's eye? What's in your mandala?
I see a great equalizer. I mean, earlier, resources used to constrain people from producing the output they want to. If you are lucky enough to be born in a good economy with all the resources, you could maximize your potential. But if you were born in a developing country, there were much higher struggle. But technology and all of this platform we are talking about not only gives you the freedom of working from wherever you want, but it also gives you the freedom or removes the constraint of capital. You don't need a lot of money Because why did you
You're
need
not
money?
putting up a brick and mortar office anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah.
need to have a big working capital to pay
So
people.
companies like publishing, the media, newspapers who used to have huge offices, so they can sell those buildings, especially on Fifth Avenue, New York, and convert them to farms and retail outlets. No, that makes sense actually. Yeah.
Actually, some businesses might go more virtual than others.
Mhm.
Those which do not require too much of infrastructure and the buyer interaction does not need to be enough physical, but there are others which do have the need and benefit of having that. So I think what is happening is we are moving towards a more natural state of where things should be, how things should be.
More free.
Yeah, so individuals would also have the option of not being limited to doing things they are forced to do because they want to earn a living, but they can now choose what they want to do, how they want to do, and where they want to do it
There
from.
you go. Prof, thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
being on Expat Insights. You have 1 minute to tell my audience how living in the Philippines is and the business you are in.
Oh,
So that's your chance right there on camera. So
well,
you can talk about Zamun, the product you're making, and how Filipinos are helping you make it.
Well, I set up this company 12 years ago, and what I have found is there are incredible talents here, and we believe we are producing a world-class product, and it's all done in-house by a team of about 15 Filipinos. And the best proof is, I would invite visitors and viewers to visit our site at www.zamun.com, and then you can find out more about it. And I guess we have a short clip at the end.
Maybe we'll play that during the title.
Okay, so
Thank
that
you very
will give
much.
you some more
Salamat,
idea.
mabuhay, and thank you for your
Thank you, Raju.
insight. And may your business flourish.
Thank you.
Yeah. May the transformative power of technology and art one day blend. So there you go, folks. That was Professor Arup Maiti from AIM, and he was talking about freedom from work using technology. Next week on Expat Insights, we'll be having a gentleman who owns a restaurant called Jonathan Dean Thorpe and Chef Golding, and we'll talk about cooking in the Philippines. I'm your host, Raju Mandian. Stay watching and we see you next week. Good night and mabuhay.